think back to a time, maybe like 15 or 20 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
A time when you could rely almost entirely on your job title to just get something done.
Right. The classic command and control.
Exactly. You had positional authority. You were the director or the senior manager or, the boss.
You had the nameplate on the door.
Yeah, the nameplate. And you just gave an order, and people generally just followed it, right? Because of that title, or maybe just the sheer weight of your technical resume.
It was very straightforward.
It was. It was like operating heavy machinery. You pull the authority lever, and the operational gear turns.
But step into any modern workplace today,
Yeah.
and that lever is completely snapped off in your hand.
Oh, completely.
The gear just doesn't turn because you told it to anymore. I mean, we are operating in a professional landscape that is chaotic, it's endlessly shifting, and it's hypersensitive to authenticity.
So true.
You simply cannot mandate engagement anymore. It just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And realizing that positional authority is dead, well, it leaves this massive vacuum.
A huge one, yeah.
Because if you can't point to your title to get your team through a crisis, what do you point to? Like, what's the tool?
Right. What's the backup plan?
Exactly. And that vacuum is exactly what we are exploring today for you, the listener. We're going through an excerpt from the introduction of an upcoming book.
Really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's called The Leadership Compass, Navigating Through Values and Integrity by Rizwan Ahmad.
Good title.
It is. And our mission today is to dig into a highly practical framework for making those daily split-second workplace decisions, especially when the old rules just fail you.
Because, the theory of leadership is always easy to talk about, but the actual mechanics, they're brutal.
Oh, yeah. So brutal.
How do you actually formulate the right response when, say, the boardroom is in a total panic? Yeah. Or, your quarterly targets are entirely unrealistic.
Or your team is just burning out.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really understand how Ahmad's compass works, we have to look at the friction that forced him to build it in the first place.
Right. He didn't just sit in a room and theorize this.
No, he didn't design this in some ivory tower. He's spent over 2 decades just bouncing between 3 wildly different, incredibly high-stress environments.
Yeah, his career path is really interesting. He started in sales, right?
Right.
Which is, that's crucible. It's all about immediate, high-pressure targets.
Because your numbers hit your number.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in that environment, the temptation to compromise your ethics is a daily reality. It's just baked in.
Yeah.
But then he pivots into IT, which is a completely different beast.
Very different.
It's an environment governed by ruthless cycles of innovation, technical debt, and just, constant systemic disruption.
Like servers crashing at 2 a.m.
Right. The pressure is systemic rather than just quotas. And then finally, he moves into education.
Wow, that is a jump.
Huge jump.
Yeah.
And there, the challenges shift away from servers and sales quotas and become profoundly human. It's heavily bureaucratic, and it's emotionally draining in a totally different way.
I mean, you're going from hitting quarterly numbers to surviving massive server migrations to navigating institutional policies and, student welfare.
Yeah.
You're talking about 3 totally different languages of stress.
And yet, Ahmad observed the exact same dynamic playing out across all 3 of those worlds.
Which is wild to think about. What did he see?
Well, he noticed that the leaders who merely reacted to the chaos, the ones who treated every interaction as just a transaction, or who relied heavily on their rank, they ultimately failed to sustain any real impact.
They just burned through their teams.
Exactly. They burned people out. But the leaders who operated from a defined, unwavering set of core values, they consistently created cultures of high trust and really deep resilience.
So think of traditional leadership like navigating with a printed map.
Ooh, I like this analogy.
Right. You hold the map, you dictate the route, and your title basically forces everyone to just follow along.
Yeah, turn left here, turn right there.
Exactly. But the modern workplace for you and me, it's like a constantly shifting city grid. Roads close without warning, entire industries change literally overnight. A printed map is completely useless in that scenario.
You just drive into a wall.
Pretty much. You need a dynamic internal GPS to recalculate when external conditions shift. and that GPS is a values compass.
And what's great is Ahmad isolates the specific moments where that GPS is actually tested.
The real-world tests.
Right. He talks about these daily friction points we all recognize.
Yeah.
Moments where commercial gain actively conflicts with your own conscience.
Oh, it's the worst feeling.
Or when a rigid institutional policy directly clashes with just basic human compassion.
Yeah, the moments where the employee handbook is absolutely no help to you whatsoever.
Exactly. That's the crucible. In those gray areas, your technical proficiency with a spreadsheet or, a software stack, it offers zero guidance.
It doesn't tell you what the right thing to do is.
Right. The compass is born out of those friction points. It forces you to rely on an internal ethical navigation system rather than just external rules.
Which brings us to a really critical juncture. We know the corporate friction requires this internal GPS, but where do the actual coordinates come from?
Yeah, how do you calibrate it?
Exactly. And Ahmad is remarkably transparent that his framework didn't originate in some corporate retreat in Aspen.
No, definitely not.
The foundation is deeply personal for him.
Yeah, he grounds his values directly in his upbringing and his Muslim faith.
Right.
He explained how, from a very young age, qualities like integrity, compassion, and justice, they were never framed as soft skills or professional bonuses.
Like nice to have.
Exactly. They weren't nice to have. They were instilled as absolute moral obligations.
And he brings in these really rich Arabic concepts to illustrate this foundation, right?
Yeah, he does. He talks about amana, which translates to a profound sense of trust and obligation.
Amana.
Yeah. And then he talks about adl, which is justice and fairness.
Yeah.
And ihsan, which is the concept of striving for excellence through pure sincerity.
That's powerful.
It really is. And he emphasizes that these aren't abstract rituals meant only for a place of worship. They are lived, daily practices.
They show up at work.
Exactly. They dictate how he conducts a performance review, how he handles a client dispute, and how he views leadership entirely. Not as a privilege of rank, but as a really heavy responsibility.
Yeah.
Under this framework, choosing humility and service isn't a sign of weakness. It actually requires immense psychological strength.
Wait, I have to jump in here with the reality check, though.
Go for it.
Because if he is pulling these coordinates from deeply personal religious faith and family tradition, I can imagine, say, a secular startup CEO or just a mid-level manager tuning out right now.
Sure, I can see that.
They might think, well, this sounds great for Sunday school, but has absolutely no place in my Q3 strategy. How does a personal theology become a universal management tool?
Well, what's fascinating here is that Ahmad completely anticipates that exact skepticism.
Oh, he sees it coming.
Oh, yeah. He acknowledges the roots of his compass, but he argues the psychology beneath it is entirely universal.
Okay, how so?
Well, you don't have to share his faith to utilize the framework, because human beings fundamentally respond to the exact same virtues across every culture and every sector.
Meaning, nobody likes being lied to, whether you're in a Tokyo boardroom or a London classroom.
Or a tech startup in Silicon Valley. We all universally crave fairness.
Yeah, that's true.
We all respond to consistency, to leaders who show humility instead of ego, and to genuine compassion. The text argues that genuine leadership begins with moral clarity.
Right.
Where you source that clarity from matters a lot less than your commitment to practicing it consistently. Ahmad puts it beautifully, actually. He says that success without ethics is just failure in disguise.
Success without ethics is failure in disguise. Wow, that phrasing really forces you to look at the long game.
It really does.
And that bridges us perfectly from the theory of this compass to the actual mechanics of it. Let's look at how Ahmad takes these universal virtues and turns them into a practical tool for your daily decision-making.
Yet to really grasp the utility of Ahmad's compass, the text contrasts it with another famous model, Tuckey's directional compass.
Oh, right. Tuckey's model.
Yeah. In Tuckey's model, the points of the compass map behavioral tendencies. So north is the driver, south is the nurturer, east is the visionary, and west is the analyst.
That's a great diagnostic tool, honestly. I mean, it tells you if you are someone who obsessively looks at data or someone who focuses more on team morale.
It is great for behavior.
Ugh.
But On points out a massive blind spot with it.
Which is?
It lacks an explicit moral foundation.
Ah.
Yeah. Tuckey's compass might tell you that you are a driver who pushes hard for results, but it doesn't anchor that drive in any kind of ethics.
So it tells you how you act, but not why your actions are actually justified.
Exactly. Ahmad synthesizes this by evolving the concept, grounding his compass in 10 specific guiding values.
Okay, let's bring those 10 values into the light. He lists justice, consultation, trust, humility, accountability, compassion, patience, honesty, service, and forgiveness.
That's the list.
But we aren't just going to read that list and move on, because Ahmad doesn't treat these like, corporate buzzwords on a motivational poster in the break room.
Right, no cats hanging from branches here.
Exactly. He treats them as mechanical levers.
They are the active ingredients in solving workplace crises.
Give me an example.
Well, take the concept of consultation. In a lot of corporate environments, consulting your team just means calling another pointless meeting to create the illusion of consensus.
Oh, a meeting that could have been an email. We've all been there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Ahmad defines consultation as the active dismantling of your own ego.
Active dismantling.
Yes. It's the mechanism of bringing people together specifically to expose your own blind spots before you make a massive mistake.
That is a very different kind of meeting.
Very different. And he applies this practically to his time in sales, actually.
Okay, how did that look?
Well, when you are under intense pressure to hit a revenue target, the easiest thing in the world is to cut a corner.
Yeah, you just overpromise a software feature just to close the deal.
Right. And that is where the value of justice, what he referred to earlier as evil, that mechanically changes the outcome.
How so?
In that high-pressure sales moment, justice demands fairness to the client over your own commission check.
That's hard to do.
It is. And accountability means owning the reality of what your product can actually deliver, even if it costs you the immediate sale.
Wow. Okay, then we shift into his time in IT. Tech environments are defined by massive, terrifying disruptions.
Oh yeah, constant change.
Imagine a total architecture overhaul where the entire team is stressed. They're wondering if the new system will work or if their skills will even be relevant next month.
Right, there's so much fear there.
Yeah.
And this is where that profound sense of trust and obligation we mentioned, this is where it's operationalized.
Because you can't just send out a memo telling an IT team to, feel secure during a massive migration.
No, that never works.
Yeah.
Trust in this context isn't asking people to blindly believe in you. It's practicing radical transparency.
What does that actually sound like in the room?
It means the leader stands up and says, look, here is what we know, here's what we don't know, and here's how we will figure it out together.
That honesty is so disarming.
It really is. Then look at education.
Yeah, let's look at that. Because people outside the sector often dismiss education as just inherently nice, right?
Like it's all just figure painting in recess.
Exactly. But the bureaucratic and emotional complexities are staggering. Dealing with a struggling student or a furious parent, that requires a massive amount of cognitive load.
Absolutely. And in those moments, Ahmad points to compassion and patience. But the crucial distinction here is that he doesn't frame these as soft, warm feelings.
They aren't just personality traits.
No, he frames them as vital, calculated, strategic choices.
Okay, explain that.
Well, choosing patience in the face of a screaming parent, that is a tactical decision to de-escalate a crisis and foster long-term institutional trust.
Right.
It is a much harder strategic move than simply losing your temper and yelling back.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because you realize that this compass doesn't actually dictate where you go.
Right.
It doesn't make the fundamental business choice for you. It won't tell you whether to, say, acquire a competitor or launch a new product line.
No, it's not a magic 8-ball.
Right. It simply ensures you stay aligned with your true north while executing that decision.
And that distinction is paramount. The compass doesn't replace business acumen. If you decide to launch that new product line, the compass ensures you do it with absolute honesty about its capabilities and deep accountability for its inevitable bugs.
It governs the manner of your journey, not the destination.
Yes, exactly.
Now, I can still hear the skeptic out there. You've got a director listening to this on their commute. They're staring down a brutal quarterly review, and they're hearing words like forgiveness, humility, and compassion.
The soft stuff.
Yeah, the temptation to dismiss this as fluffy academic idealism that just won't appease ruthless shareholders, it's incredibly high.
Oh, for sure. The skepticism is a natural defense mechanism against the pressure of modern capitalism.
Yeah.
But Ahmad strips away the idealism.
Yeah.
He attacks that skepticism with hard data. He bridges the gap between these seemingly soft values and very hard, measurable ROI.
And he brings the receipts, too. He synthesizes research from some heavy hitters in organizational behavior to prove that ignoring the compass actually destroys capital.
Yes. When you look at the aggregate data from researchers studying emotional intelligence and corporate culture, people like Daniel Goleman or Kouzes and Posner, the consensus is impossible to ignore.
What does Goldman's data say?
Well, Goldman's data shows that emotionally intelligent leaders who lead with empathy, they don't just get compliance, they generate actual commitment.
And that is a massive economic difference because compliance just means your employee is doing the bare minimum to not get fired.
Clocking in, clocking out.
Right. But commitment means they are bringing their full discretionary energy, their creativity, to solving your company's problems.
The research from Coos and Posner backs this up entirely. They found that credibility is the single most important quality people seek in leadership.
Credibility, not charisma, not intelligence.
Exactly. Credibility. And credibility is built exclusively through the daily, consistent application of values, like honesty and accountability. It's an economic multiplier.
Because if your team doesn't find you credible, your strategic vision is completely dead in the water anyway.
Nobody's going to follow you. And the data goes even further when he points to the work on ethical leadership by Brown and Trevino.
What did they find?
They prove that leading with values isn't just about feeling good. It is a highly measurable factor in staff retention and corporate reputation.
Wow.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the math becomes very simple. A toxic leader without a moral compass can absolutely use fear and positional authority to bully a team into hitting a short-term Q3 target.
Sure, they can yell until the numbers look good on paper.
Right. But the data shows that the resultant erosion of trust is catastrophic.
People start updating their resumes.
Immediately. By Q4, your most talented people have quit, your institutional knowledge is gone, your reputation in the industry is toxic, and performance completely collapses.
And replacing that talent, training them, repairing that market reputation, it costs exponentially more than whatever bonus you secured by cutting corners in Q3.
Exactly. The leaders who model these 10 values, they turn them into a lived daily practice. They prove that ethical leadership is the furthest thing from a soft skill.
It's hard.
It is the most rigorous, demanding, and ultimately profitable strategy available.
So what does this all mean? For you, the listener, heading into a chaotic workday filled with endless micro-decisions and competing pressures?
Yeah, how do you use it today?
Well, it means that building an environment of trust using this compass doesn't require you to be like a flawless paragon of virtue.
And that might be the most liberating takeaway from the text. Ahmad makes it clear that the compass demands transparency, not perfection. When you make a mistake, and you will make mistakes, admitting it openly to your team is an exercise in humility and honesty.
Owning the failure is accountability.
Exactly. Asking your team to help fix it is consultation. You can literally use the compass to navigate your own failures.
It is such a dynamic way to view leadership. Let's briefly retrace the ground we've covered in this deep dive.
Sounds good.
We started with the jarring reality that positional authority is dead. You just can't mandate that the gears turn anymore.
No. We examined how Rizwan Ahmad pulled from deeply personal foundations, his upbringing and concepts like Amana and Isan, to build a framework that translates universally.
Because it taps into foundational human psychology.
Exactly.
And we unpack the mechanics of those 10 values, how applying justice in high-stakes sales or radical transparency during an IT crisis or strategic compassion in education actively changes the outcome of a situation.
And we grounded the entire concept in hard data, proving that credibility, built through consistent values, is the ultimate driver of retention, commitment, and long-term performance.
There is a quote from the introduction that anchors this entire philosophy. Ahmad writes, "Leadership is not about having all the answers, but about holding steady when others lose direction."
That's so good. It's a vital reminder that when the landscape is chaotic, your team isn't looking at your resume to see if you can code faster than them.
Or sell more than them.
Right. They're looking at your compass to see if you can guide them out of the storm without compromising who you are.
Which leaves us with one final provocative thought to mull over. We've spent this entire time talking about how to calibrate your own internal compass.
Yeah.
But what happens when you look down at that compass and then you look up at the boardroom and you realize the company you work for is inherently magnetically polarized against your values?
Oh, man. That is the ultimate friction point.
It really is. Can a highly ethical leader actually survive and create a microculture of trust inside a deeply unethical system?
That's a tough position to be in.
Or is the truest, hardest test of the leadership compass knowing exactly when it's time to pack it up and walk away entirely?
Something to really think about.
Definitely. Think about it. Because your compass isn't just guiding your daily decisions, it's writing your legacy.